Mom, Dad, I'm not throwing shade, but the whole New Year's resolution thing, kinda slipping, no offense. Anyway, my best friend Jenny's dad, crushing it. He uses Blue Apron. He says he ordered one-pan assemble and bake meals and these things called meal kits. They're all super easy to make. He keeps yelling, protein and fiber, baby. Also, the food, we tried it. So good. So maybe you check it out or whatever. Blue Apron. Get $50 off your first 2 orders plus free shipping with code STIR50. Terms and conditions apply. Visit blueapron.com/terms for more.
To the Football for Kids podcast with me, Darren Rees, and welcome to an episode on a legend, and I do not use that term lightly. In this episode, we're going to be talking about one of the greatest footballers the world has ever seen, and arguably the greatest player to have ever come out of Italy. He was so good, so skillful, so magical, that they named the most famous stadium in Italy after him. Of course, in this episode, we're going to be talking about an old school player who goes by the name of Giuseppe Meazza. Before we get into this episode on Giuseppe Meazza, we need to do a massive, humongous birthday shout out. And this birthday shout out is for Alexander, whose birthday is on the 6th of April. Alexander is an enormous Manchester City fan, and he plays for Dubai Irish and is doing wonderful, not only in his football, but in life in general, and his family are super proud of him. So Alexander, thank you very much for being a listener. A huge happy birthday to you. A massive shout out to everybody in your family and in your football team, and to your coaches who I'm sure do a wonderful job. I hope your birthday goes brilliantly, and I hope that the rest of the season is fantastic for you. A very happy birthday to you from me, Darren Rees, at the Football for Kids podcast. Right then, let's get on with it, shall we? And let's talk about Giuseppe Meazza. Okay, so when this player came about, it was a long time ago. In fact, it was over 100 years ago. So I want to take you back to Milan in 1910. Not the shiny modern city that people know today, but a place full of smoke, clattering carts, and busy streets buzzing from sunrise to sunset. It's a working neighbourhood which goes by the name of Porta Vittoria, where people work hard just to get by. And at this time, a baby boy was born. His name was Giuseppe Meazza. His mum and dad weren't rich at all. They barely had a penny, not even close. Life meant early mornings, long days, and helping each other to keep food on the table. However, this is where the story turns. When Giuseppe was just 7 years old, something huge and terrible was happening across Europe. World War I. And for Giuseppe, it wasn't just something in the newspapers. His father had to go off to fight, and he didn't come home. Just like that, everything changed. The house felt quieter, heavier, and Giuseppe had to grow up really quickly, sticking close to his mum, who suddenly had to carry everything by herself. His mum, Encilia, was strong as they come, cut from a different cloth. Every single day, she ran a fruit and vegetable store in a busy Milan market, surrounded by the smell of fresh oranges, earthy potatoes, and shouting from customers all over the place. And little Giuseppe was right there with her, helping her out. But his mind was said to be somewhere else, because just around the corner, on the hard, uneven cobbled streets, something magical was happening. Kids were playing football. But not like today, not with shiny kits or fancy boots, not even a real ball. They bundled up old rags and then tied the rags together with string to make a football. Most of them were barefoot, darting between the stones, laughing, shouting, slipping, scrambling, and right in the middle of it all was Giuseppe Meazza. Those bumpy streaks and wobbly rag balls made the game unpredictable, And without even knowing it, he was learning something special. Balance, control, and how to be magical in the tightest of spaces. The kind of magic that would one day stand up and be noticed. The war was eventually over, but life in Milan isn't suddenly easy. Illness is everywhere, and the air in the city isn't always the best for growing lungs. Young Giuseppe Meazza is a skinny little lad at this point, often quite unwell, prone to illness, and the kind of kid that most of the adults would worry about. So, to help him get stronger, he was sent off away from the busy streets and into the countryside in Italy to attend what they then called open air school. A place where lessons happened outside, in the fresh air, under the sky. And here is a bit of a twist which came next. What was meant to fix his health also quietly started to build him as a footballer. Running in the open fields, breathing in the beautiful clean air, moving, stretching, playing, his body began to wake up. He became stronger, sharper, more balanced, almost like the game was finding him. But back in his neighbourhood, the pull of football was impossible to ignore for him. By the time he was just 6 years old, Giuseppe was already playing with a local group of kids who were playing football with a rolled up load of rag which was tied together with some string. His mum, Celia, wasn't keen though. She was worried about his health, about his future. I mean, she was just being a mum after all. She was worried about the cobbled streets, so sometimes she'd hide his shoes. It was a proper mum move. That no shoes, no football. Simple, done and dusted. However, Giuseppe Meazza had other ideas. If he couldn't find his shoes, he'd just play with his socks on. And if that didn't work, then he would just wrap his feet up in some cloth. It really didn't matter what the situation or the scenario was, Meazza would find a way of making it happen. By the time that Giuseppe Meazza reached 12 years old, people were starting to notice. Not just his mates on the street, but the grown-ups, the coaches, the locals who watched the kids play in the game. The kind of people who'd seen a lot of football and knew something felt different. But there was still one big obstacle standing in his way: his mum. And this is where things got a little bit silly and a little bit dramatic. One day, she said, "Right, you gotta promise me, Giuseppe, no more football. I'm worried about your health. I'm worried about you injuring yourself. You're the sort of kid that falls ill and is prone to breaking something." She wanted him to step away from football. And what you gotta remember is, back then, football didn't open doors like it does now. Giuseppe approached this in a different way to most kids. He didn't shout, he didn't argue. Instead, he refused to eat his dinner. One day passed, then 2, then 3. This was a 12-year-old standing his ground, going on some form of hunger strike because he wanted to play football. And if you know anything about Italian mums, they want you to eat your dinner. So eventually, his mum crumbled and she said, "Okay, you can play football, but please be careful." It was game on. He joined his first proper team, Gloria FC, stepping off the cobbled streets and onto a real pitch for the first time. But even then, he didn't have the right gear. No proper football boots or anything like that. He was still chasing the game with whatever he had. Until one day, something small but massive happened. A supporter from the club, seeing just how good Giuseppe Meazza was, brought him his very first pair of football boots. Just imagine that moment. From rags on your feet to real football boots. He had grip, protection, and most important, possibility. And once the boots were on, it was said he didn't just play, he danced across the pitch. His touch was soft, almost like the ball was stuck to his feet. He could twist, turn, glide past players like they weren't even there. Even at that age, he was already doing things that made people stop and stare. Little feints, quick shimmers and clever dribbles. The kind that would one day leave even the best goalkeepers in the world staring into space. And when you've got a kid playing like this, of course the word starts spreading. Spreading about a boy in Milan who didn't just play football, he made it look magical, he made it look easy. Now, here's where the story takes another turn. The kind that could make you stop in your tracks. Growing up, Giuseppe Meazza had a dream club, AC Milan. AC Milan was the team he looked up to, the badge that he kissed, the team he imagined himself playing for. So, at just 14 years old, he went on a trial at AC Milan. His heart was racing, his boots were on, ready to prove himself yet again. But instead of a yes, this time it was a no. They looked at him and said he was too skinny, not strong enough, not built for the top level of the game. Imagine that, being told you're not good enough by the club you love and the club you dreamed of playing at. That one hurt, it stung properly. But instead of giving up, he went back to where it all started, the streets and the rag ball, the same cobbles and the same chaos, just playing, loving it, enjoying himself. And then, someone was watching him. This time, it was the right someone watching him. A scout connected to Inter Milan spotted him playing and saw something that others had missed. Not muscle, not size, but a spark of genius. And in 1924, Inter Milan signed him. So he went from rejection to opportunity in the click of a fingers. Now Inter knew he was still slight, still growing, so they tried to build him up. There are strong reports from the time that the club even focused on his diet, making sure that he ate properly, plenty of protein, proper meals, anything to try and get him stronger for the demands of the beautiful game. But the real magic didn't come from his size. It came from a brilliant coach, a coach called Giuseppe, who saw the game differently. He didn't care that Giuseppe wasn't the biggest or the strongest of the lads. He saw how quickly he fought, how sharp he was, how he could read the game like a story unfolding. Over the next few years in Inter's youth team, Giuseppe didn't just improve, he exploded with talent, sharper finishing, tighter control, smarter movement, everything clicking into place. So much so that at the age of 17, still a teenager, the coach made a big and bold call. He said, he's ready. Ready for the first team, ready for the big stage. And not everyone liked that. Some of the older players weren't too sure about this skinny kid that they hadn't heard of. But they were about to find out exactly what Giuseppe Meazza was all about. And that seems like a great place to leave part 1 in this 2-part episode on Italy's greatest ever footballer, Giuseppe Meazza. Join me next time when we discover the rest of his story. And remember, if you know someone who loves football just as much as you do, then please tell them about the Football for Kids podcast. And whether you're playing football soon, watching it on the telly or pitch side, I hope that you enjoy the game. See you next time.